Dr. Alan Miller stared at his computer screen in disbelief. After 15 years at the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence program, he had found something real. The signal repeated in a clear pattern that couldn't be natural. It contained mathematical sequences, then simple pictograms, and finally what appeared to be a translation matrix. "Get me the director," Alan said to his assistant. His hand shook as he reached for his coffee. Now, 3 days later, Alan stood in the White House Situation Room. President Olivia Bell sat at the head of the table, her face serious as she studied the reports. "You're certain this is authentic?" she asked, looking up at Alan. "Yes, Madam President. We've confirmed it through multiple radio telescopes. This is not human in origin." The signal had contained a simple message. "Greetings, people of Earth. The Galactic Council acknowledges your civilization and requests dialogue." General Richard Davis leaned forward, his military decorations catching the light. "And we're sure this isn't a threat." "The message seems diplomatic," said Professor Nathan Kelly, the linguist who had helped decode the more complex parts of the transmission. "They've provided coordinates for a reply and suggested protocols for communication." President Bell nodded slowly. "So what do we tell them?" Susan Wright, the State Department's top diplomat, placed her folder on the table. "I suggest we respond with caution but openness. We acknowledge their message and express willingness to establish diplomatic relations." "And if they're hostile?" General Davis asked. "Then we learn as much as we can before they show their true intentions," Susan replied. The room fell silent as everyone turned to the president. "Send the reply," President Bell said finally. "But I want all military forces on high alert." Quietly. 2 weeks later, the world changed forever. The alien ship appeared suddenly in orbit, somehow bypassing all early warning systems. It was smooth and silver, shaped like a leaf, and nearly a mile long. News of the ship spread quickly, despite government attempts to control the information. People gathered in streets, in churches, in bars, anywhere with televisions or internet, watching as shaky footage of the massive craft appeared on screens worldwide. "My fellow Americans and citizens of all nations," President Bell said in an emergency broadcast, "today we have confirmed that we are not alone in the universe. A delegation from what calls itself the Galactic Council has arrived and requested a meeting with Earth's leaders. I have agreed to this meeting." In the United Nations General Assembly Hall in New York, representatives from every nation gathered. Security was tight, with soldiers at every entrance. The air felt electric with tension and wonder. Dr. Alan Miller sat in the front row next to Professor Kelly. They had both been invited as scientific advisors. "I never thought I'd see this day," Alan whispered. "None of us did," Nathan replied, adjusting his glasses nervously. A side door opened. 4 beings entered the hall, escorted by UN security personnel who looked small beside them. The aliens stood 7 feet tall, with slender bodies and skin that seemed to shift colors slightly as they moved. Their faces had 2 large eyes, no visible nose, and small mouths. They walked with grace that seemed impossible for their height. The room fell completely silent. The tallest alien stepped forward and spoke. Its voice was surprisingly human-like, though it had an odd musical quality. "People of Earth, I am XOR-L, Ambassador of the Galactic Council. We have watched your world for many cycles. You have reached the technological threshold that qualifies you for contact." Susan Wright stepped forward as Earth's chosen representative. "Ambassador XOR-L, we welcome you to Earth and look forward to peaceful relations with the Galactic Council." The alien's eyes blinked slowly. "We come to discuss your place in the galactic community. Your species is unusual. We must determine how you will fit within established order." General Davis, standing at the back of the room, caught Susan's eye. Something in the alien's tone made him uneasy. "We are eager to learn," Susan replied carefully. "Good," said Ambassador XOR-L, "because there is much you must understand about your position. The galaxy has rules, and all species must know their place within it. No one in the room realized it then, but that statement was the first hint of the storm that was coming. The meeting room at the United Nations fell silent as Ambassador Sor-El was joined by a much larger alien. This new creature stood nearly 9 feet tall with a hard, shiny exoskeleton and 4 arms. Its head resembled that of a giant insect, with compound eyes that reflected the room in hundreds of tiny mirrors. This is War Commander Sor-El of the Draconid Federation, a senior member of the Council, Sor-El explained. Sor-El stepped forward. When he spoke, his voice was deep and clicked between words. Humans, we have studied your history extensively. You are a species of war. Captain Laura Bennett, standing near General Davis, felt her muscles tense. As military liaison to the diplomatic team, she had been chosen for her calm under pressure. But something about the alien's tone made her want to reach for her sidearm. All species have conflicts in their development, Susan Wright replied carefully. We have made great progress toward peace. Sor-El made a sound that might have been laughter. You have had 3 world wars. 2, corrected Professor Kelly. The conflict you call the Cold War was considered a world war by Council standards, Sor-El continued. You split the atom and immediately built weapons. You have thousands of nuclear devices aimed at each other even now. President Bell stepped forward. We understand we have much to learn. We hope the Council can guide us toward greater peace and technological advancement. The aliens looked at each other, communicating silently. Then Sor-El spoke again. That is why we are here. The Council has classified Earth as a Category 3 civilization. What does that mean? Susan asked. It means you are considered too dangerous for full membership, Sor-El said bluntly. You will be granted protectorate status. The room erupted in murmurs. President Bell raised her hand for quiet. Please explain what protectorate status entails, she said. Sor-El's skin shifted to a darker blue. You will continue to govern your internal affairs. The Council will provide limited technology and knowledge. Your military capabilities will be reduced to ensure regional stability. Travel beyond your solar system will be restricted and supervised. Captain Bennett stepped forward. And if we decline this generous offer? Sor-El's compound eyes seemed to focus on her. That would be unwise. The Council's decision is not a request. General Davis joined the conversation. Are there other options for Earth's relationship with the Council? In time, perhaps, Sor-El said. After several centuries of demonstrated peace and stability. Centuries? President Bell's voice was steady, but her hands gripped the podium tightly. It is for your own protection, Sor-El said. And ours. Species with your aggressive tendencies have caused great harm when given access to advanced technologies too quickly. After the meeting, Earth's leaders gathered in a secure room deep beneath the UN building. The aliens had returned to their ship, giving humanity 1 week to accept the Council's protection. They're not offering protection. They're demanding submission, Captain Bennett said, pacing the room. Susan Wright reviewed her notes. Other diplomatic teams are reporting similar meetings worldwide. The message is consistent. What do we know about these protectorate species they mentioned? President Bell asked. A young analyst named Greg Porter pulled up information on his tablet. Not much, Madam President. But our radio astronomers have detected transmissions from what we believe are Council mining operations on worlds they claim are protectorates. They seem to be taking resources at an unsustainable rate. So they contain us, then exploit us, General Davis said grimly. Dr. Miller, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. There's something else. The way they classify species, it seems to be based on how much they fear them. I don't think this is about protection at all. They're afraid of what humans might become. President Bell looked around the room at the representatives from Earth's most powerful nations. Then we have a choice to make. Accept their terms and slowly surrender our future, or stand up now while we still can. Captain Bennett's eyes met the President's. They may have the technology, but they've never faced humanity when its back is against the wall. Outside, crowds gathered around the world, watching the alien ship hover silently above New York City, unaware that the next decision humanity made would send shockwaves across the galaxy. For 5 days, world leaders debated in a secure underground facility. The room was filled with tension as presidents, prime ministers, and military chiefs argued about Earth's future. President Bell stood at the head of the table. "We need to understand what happens to protectorate species. Dr. Martinez, what have you found?" Chief Scientist Dr. Eric Martinez adjusted his glasses. "We analyzed the data from deep space telescopes. Several star systems with council protectorates show massive mining operations. The planets are being stripped of resources." He displayed images on the large screen. This planet became a protectorate 300 years ago. This is what it looked like then. The image showed a green and blue world. And this is now. The new image revealed a gray planet with massive pits visible from space. "They're not protectors. They're parasites," said the Chinese president. Lieutenant Peter Gray, a young intelligence officer, stepped forward. "We intercepted communications between their ship and their home systems. They'd done this before. Other violent species were given similar choices before being fully controlled." "What about their technology?" asked the Russian president. "We cannot fight ships that can cross galaxies." "That's just it," Dr. Martins replied. "They fear us because of how quickly we adapt. Look at this." He showed a new slide. "This is human technological progress over the past 100 years. And this is the Council's standard rate based on their communications. We advance 5 times faster than their average species. They're not worried we're too violent," General Davis realized. "They're worried we'll catch up too quickly." Captain Bennett pointed to another data point. "Their ships use a form of gravity manipulation for propulsion. Our physics teams believe we're only 20 years away from similar discoveries on our own. So they want to stop us now, before we become equals," President Bell said. The room fell silent. "We vote tomorrow," she announced. "Each nation must decide. Accept their terms or fight for our future." That night, Susan Wright couldn't sleep. She walked the empty halls of the facility, thinking about the weight of tomorrow's decision. She found Captain Bennett sitting alone in the cafeteria. "Couldn't sleep either?" Susan asked. Laura shook her head. "I keep thinking about my grandfather. He fought in World War I. He told me once that there are moments when you must stand, even against impossible odds." "We might be destroyed," Susan said quietly. "Yes, but at least we would die free." The next morning, the votes were counted. The decision was not unanimous, but it was clear. Earth would not surrender. President Bell prepared to address both humanity and the waiting aliens. The broadcast would go to every corner of Earth and to the alien ship above. "Are you sure about this?" General Davis asked her privately. "No," she admitted, "but I am sure that accepting their terms means the slow death of human potential. We've faced extinction before, from ice ages, from plagues, from our own weapons. Somehow, we always survive." At noon, President Bell stood before the cameras. Billions watched across the planet. On the alien ship, Haxor-El and Zar-Tol also watched, expecting acceptance of their generous offer. "People of Earth and representatives of the Galactic Council," President Bell began. "We have carefully considered the Council's proposal that Earth become a protectorate species." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "Throughout human history, we have faced moments of choice that define who we are. Today is such a moment. We have examined the evidence of what happens to protectorate worlds. We have considered the restrictions on human development and exploration." In orbit, Zar-Tol shifted uncomfortably as he listened. "The nations of Earth have voted," President Bell continued. "And our answer is this. We reject protectorate status. We claim our right to develop on our own terms. We choose freedom, even if it means war." On the alien ship, alarms began to sound. "They cannot be serious," Haxor-El said in shock. No species has ever rejected the Council's protection. Zartul's compound eyes reflected the image of the human president. Then they have chosen extinction. But deep in his four-chambered heart, something unfamiliar stirred. It took him a moment to recognize it. It was fear. The alien ship departed Earth orbit 6 hours after President Bell's announcement. Its engines glowed bright blue as it vanished into the darkness of space. But no one believed they were gone for good. In the following days, countries that had been enemies for decades signed new treaties. The Human Defense Alliance was formed, uniting Earth under a single military command for the first time in history. General Davis stood in the newly established war room beneath the Rocky Mountains. Screens covered the walls, showing military bases around the world preparing for war. "We have months at most," he told the gathered leaders. "Their main fleet will return, and they won't be offering terms this time." Engineer Samantha Rodriguez stepped forward. She was young, only 32, but had 3 FIDs and a reputation for brilliant innovation. "We've analyzed the data from their ship," she said. "Their technology is advanced, but not magical. We believe we can adapt some of our existing systems to counter their weapons." "How?" asked the Russian general. Samantha pulled up diagrams on the main screen. "Their ships use energy shields that work like electromagnetic fields. Our most powerful EMP weapons might disrupt them temporarily." "That gives us seconds, not victory," someone said. "Seconds might be enough to deliver conventional weapons," Admiral John Harris pointed out. He was an older man with gray hair and calm eyes. "If we can punch holes in their defenses, even briefly, we can cause damage." In another part of the facility, Karen Lewis worked with a team of diplomats. While most believed war was inevitable, they maintained communication with the Galactic Council, asking questions and stalling for time. "They believe we'll surrender when we see their main fleet," Karen told President Bell. "Their culture doesn't understand our willingness to fight against odds. We can use that." Meanwhile, Commander Frank Williams led a secret mission to establish a hidden base on the far side of the moon. If Earth fell, some humans would survive to continue the fight. "We need to turn our weaknesses into strengths," Admiral Harris said during a strategy meeting. "They think we're primitive and violent. Let's show them what that really means." The plan took shape over 3 weeks of intense work. Earth's scientists worked around the clock, adapting existing technologies and developing new ones based on what they'd learned from the alien ship. Samantha's team made the first breakthrough. "We've modified our satellite systems to detect their approach. We'll have at least 72 hours warning before they arrive." Military bases converted to production facilities. Soldiers trained on new weapon systems. Civilian volunteers prepared emergency bunkers. 1 month after the Council ship left, Lieutenant Peter Gray rushed into the war room. "We have something," he said breathlessly. "We intercepted communications between Council ships. They're arguing among themselves." He played the translated audio. Alien voices debated the human problem. Some wanted immediate action. Others urged caution. "They didn't expect us to refuse," Admiral Harris said. "They've never faced a species that chose war over submission." 2 days later, the early warning system detected multiple objects entering the solar system. The Council fleet had arrived sooner than expected. 17 ships, reported the monitoring officer. Largest is approximately 5 miles long. In the war room, President Bell looked at the gathered military leaders. "Are we ready?" General Davis nodded. "As ready as we can be." "Then launch Operation First Strike," she ordered. Across Earth, hidden missile silos opened. Submarines surfaced in remote locations. And in orbit, satellites that had appeared dormant suddenly activated. The Council fleet approached with confidence, expecting to find a frightened planet ready to surrender when faced with overwhelming force. Instead, they encountered humanity's response to those who threatened their freedom. As the first human weapons fired, Admiral Harris sent a message to all Earth forces. "Remember, they expect us to behave according to their rules of warfare. Our advantage is that we don't know their rules, and wouldn't follow them if we did." On the Council command ship, Zartol watched the approaching human missiles with dismissal. "Primitive projectiles," he said. "Raise shields." But something was wrong. The human weapons weren't behaving like normal missiles. They were changing course, communicating with each other, using unusual patterns. For the first time in 10,000 years of warfare, the Galactic Council was about to be surprised. The human missiles split apart as they approached the alien ships. Each missile released dozens of smaller projectiles that scattered in different directions. The Council's targeting systems couldn't lock onto all of them at once. On the bridge of his ship, Zartol clicked his mandibles in annoyance. "Primitive diversionary tactics," he said. "Target the larger objects only." But these weren't just simple decoys. Engineer Samantha Rodriguez had redesigned the missiles using ideas from Earth's smallest creatures. Like ants working together, each small projectile had a purpose. Some released clouds of specialized metal particles that confused the alien sensors. Others emitted powerful electromagnetic pulses. A few contained actual explosives. Working together, they created gaps in the alien shields. Colonel Daniel Moore led the first wave of attack ships from a hidden base in the asteroid belt. His small fleet had been stationed there in secret during the weeks of preparation. "Remember your training," he told his pilots. "Hit and run. Don't stay in one place. They expect us to attack head-on like they do." The Earth ships were small and fast. They darted between the larger alien vessels, firing weapons through the gaps in their shields, then racing away before the Council ships could respond. "This is not proper combat," complained a Council commander. "They do not form battle lines. They do not engage in direct confrontation." Captain Lisa Martinez led a squadron of modified fighter jets. Their mission was to target the Council's communication relay ships. Without those, the alien fleet would have trouble coordinating their attacks. "Squad 3, follow me," she ordered as her fighters approached a smaller Council vessel. "Remember the plan. 5 seconds of fire, then scatter." The human jets released their weapons simultaneously. The combined electromagnetic pulse temporarily disabled the alien ship shields. Conventional missiles followed immediately after, striking the now vulnerable hull. "Communication Relay Alpha is offline," reported an officer in Earth's command center. Admiral Harris nodded. "Good. Now they'll have to communicate ship to ship. That's much slower." In space, the Council fleet began to adjust their tactics. Their ships moved closer together for better protection. But this was exactly what the humans had hoped for. From the far side of the moon, Commander Williams gave the order. "Launch the mines." Thousands of small devices that had been hidden in the lunar dust activated. They used the moon's gravity to slingshot toward the tightly grouped alien ships. On his flagship, Zartol received damage reports from 3 vessels. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "They are centuries behind us technologically." "They fight differently," replied his second-in-command. "They do not follow standard combat protocols." Zartol slammed one of his 4 arms against his command chair. "They fight like vermin. No honor, no proper formations. Yet they are effective," the second-in-command said quietly. News of the battle spread quickly through the galaxy. Other species watched in amazement as humanity stood against the Council fleet. Many had believed the humans would be defeated within hours, but the battle continued for days. Council military doctrine relied on overwhelming force and formal battle procedures developed over thousands of years. Their ships were designed for combat against enemies who fought the same way they did. They weren't prepared for humans who used guerrilla tactics in space. "We should retreat and return with more ships," suggested one of Zartol's commanders. "No," Zartol shouted. "If we show weakness against these primitives, other protectorate species might get ideas. We must crush them completely." But the Council ships continued to take damage. Human attacks came from unexpected directions. Earth's forces used the solar system itself as a weapon, hiding behind planets, using gravity to accelerate their projectiles, even turning space debris into ammunition. In the Council's home system, the High Command received disturbing reports. Not only were the humans fighting back effectively, but news of their resistance was spreading. For the first time in millennia, the Council faced a species that refused to be conquered and might actually survive. The High Commander called an emergency session. "This changes everything," he told the gathered leaders. "If the humans win, the galaxy will never be the same." The Great Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with angry voices. Representatives from 36 species had gathered for an emergency meeting. At the center of the hall, a hologram showed the ongoing battle in Earth's solar system. "They should have been defeated already," said Kazvor, an amphibian-like being from a water world. "How are these humans still fighting?" High Commander Roltan, the oldest member of the council, raised his hand for silence. "This situation is unprecedented. No Category 3 species has ever resisted classification. We should send the extinction fleet," demanded a reptilian counselor. "Destroy their planet completely." Murmurs of agreement filled the hall. But then a smaller alien stood up. His name was Lurvex, from a species that had been among the first to join the council ages ago. "Perhaps we should consider another approach," Lurvex suggested. "The humans show remarkable adaptability. They could be valuable allies rather than subjects." "Allies?" Kazvor laughed. "Their history is filled with violence and war." "So is yours," Lurvex replied calmly. "Before the council found your world, your people fought constant underwater wars. Now you sit in judgment of others." The hall fell silent. This was not how council meetings usually went. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Ryan Taylor worked with a team analyzing intercepted council communications. As a linguistics expert, he had made an important discovery. "Look at this," he told President Bell, pointing to patterns on his screen. "We're picking up messages from other solar systems, not just from the Council, but from their protectorate species." "What are they saying?" President Bell asked. "Many are watching our battle. And some," he paused, double-checking his translation, "some are cheering for us." In another part of the complex, Susan Wright met with a group of diplomats. "We've received a transmission from a non-council source," she announced. "They claim to be from a coalition of species who oppose council rule." The message played on the screen. "People of Earth, we have watched your resistance with great interest. The council has dominated the galaxy for too long. If you continue to fight, you will not fight alone." Admiral Harris looked skeptical. "It could be a trick, or it could be our first real allies," Susan replied. Back in the council hall, the debate had turned heated. Some species argued for immediate destruction of Earth. Others, impressed by human courage, began to question the council's authority. "The humans have exposed a weakness in our system," Lurvex continued. "We claim to protect less developed species, but in truth, we control them. We take their resources and limit their growth." "That is our right," growled Kazvor. "We maintain order in the galaxy." "At what cost?" asked another counselor, one who had been silent until now. "My world has been a protectorate for 700 years. We still cannot travel beyond our own moon without permission." The High Commander banged his ceremonial staff. "Enough. We will vote on the human question. Those in favor of sending the extinction fleet." Many hands raised, but not as many as expected. Those opposed. To everyone's surprise, nearly half the council voted against destroying Earth. High Commander Roltan looked troubled. "The vote is too close. We will convene again tomorrow." As the council members filed out, private messages raced between ships throughout the galaxy. The humans' continued resistance has started something unprecedented: debate within the council itself. On Earth, the first week of war was ending. Humanity had suffered losses, but they had also inflicted significant damage on the council fleet. More importantly, they had survived the initial attack, something the council had never expected. In the command center, General Davis reviewed the latest intelligence reports. "They're pulling back to regroup," he told President Bell. "We've won the first round, but they'll return with more ships." President Bell nodded. "Then we need to use this time wisely." She turned to Engineer Rodriguez. How soon can we implement the Mars defense grid? Samantha checked her calculations. 3 days if we work around the clock. Make it 2, the president said. And I want to speak to these potential allies. If there are others who oppose the council, we need to coordinate our efforts. For the first time since the war began, a sense of cautious hope spread through Earth's leadership. They weren't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting for change. Scientist Amanda Phillips had not slept in 3 days. Her team was analyzing data taken from a captured Council scout ship. The small vessel had been disabled during the battle and towed to a secure facility in Antarctica. I found something, she told the gathered military leaders, her voice excited despite her exhaustion. The Council database contains historical records going back thousands of years. On the large screen, she displayed ancient-looking text with translations. They have been doing this for a long time, finding developing species and controlling them. But look at this. She pulled up an image of what appeared to be a prediction or prophecy. This is mentioned repeatedly in their oldest records. It speaks of a species that would reshape the stars and break the chains of order. General Davis leaned forward. They think that's us. Amanda nodded. The description matches humans in many ways. Adaptable, creative, willing to fight against overwhelming odds. The Council has been deliberately suppressing any species with these traits for millennia. So this isn't just about resources or control, President Bell said. They're afraid of a prophecy. While Amanda's team continued their research, Lieutenant Kevin White led a special mission to Mars. Scans had detected unusual energy readings beneath the planet's surface. We're approaching the coordinates now, Kevin reported as his team's ship landed near an unremarkable area of the Martian surface. His team of 6 wore special suits designed for both protection and exploration. They carried equipment to dig through the red soil. Start here, Kevin ordered, checking his readings. After digging for 3 hours, they hit something solid. It wasn't rock. It was metal with strange markings. Command, we found something, Kevin transmitted to Earth. It appears to be artificial and very old. Over the next day, they uncovered more. It wasn't just metal. It was a door that had been buried on Mars for what appeared to be thousands of years. We've managed to get it open, Kevin reported. You won't believe what we found. Inside was a vast chamber filled with technology unlike anything seen before, not human, and not matching the Council's designs either. And on the walls were images that shocked everyone. Humans, ancient humans, standing among stars. Back on Earth, Dr. Alan Miller analyzed the images transmitted from Mars. If I'm reading this correctly, he said, humans were once a spacefaring civilization, long before our recorded history. That's impossible, someone objected. We evolved on Earth. Maybe not, Amanda Phillips said quietly. Or maybe we did, but we achieved space travel much earlier than we thought. The dating on that Mars base suggests it's at least 50,000 years old. President Bell looked at the images with wonder. Are you saying the Council might have encountered humans before? Not just encountered, Amanda replied. According to what we've translated from their records, they fought a war against a species that matches our genetic profile. A war they nearly lost. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They didn't just happen to find Earth, General Davis said slowly. They've been watching us, making sure we didn't remember who we were. And now we know why they were so quick to classify us as dangerous, Admiral Harris added. It wasn't just our current behavior they feared, it was our past. On the Mars base, Kevin's team made another discovery. A sealed room containing what appeared to be a message, preserved for whoever might find it. The message, once translated, was simple but powerful. If you are reading this, the chain is broken. Remember who you are. The stars are your birthright. President Bell called an emergency meeting of all Earth's leaders. This changes everything, she told them. We're not just fighting for our future. We're fighting to reclaim our past. In space, The Council fleet was regrouping, but reports came in of uprisings on 7 protectorate worlds. The news of human resistance had spread, inspiring others. High Commander Rule Tan looked at the reports with growing dread. "It's happening," he whispered. "The prophecy is coming true." The war was no longer just about Earth. It had become something much bigger, a fight for freedom that would change the galaxy forever. 3 months after the war began, a massive fleet gathered near Jupiter. It was unlike anything seen before in the solar system. Human ships flew alongside vessels from 7 other species who had broken free from Council control. Admiral Harris stood on the bridge of Earth's largest warship. "All ships report ready," his officer announced. "Then it's time," Harris said. He opened a channel to all ships. "This is Admiral Harris. Today we take the fight to the Council's doorstep, not for revenge, but for freedom. For all species who deserve to chart their own path among the stars." The combined fleet jumped into faster-than-light travel, using technology shared by their new allies. Their destination: the Council's home system. On Earth, President Bell addressed the planet. "Whatever happens today, remember this. When faced with submission or extinction, humanity chose a third path. We chose to fight not just for ourselves, but for a better galaxy." The Council had not expected an attack on their home system. Their main fleets were scattered, putting down rebellions on multiple worlds. Their defenses were strong, but they had never been tested. General Davis commanded the ground forces. "First wave, prepare for landing," he ordered as the Allied fleet engaged the Council's orbital defenses. The battle was fierce. Ships from both sides were destroyed, but the Council defenders were confused by the combined tactics of multiple species working together, each fighting in their own way. Admiral Harris watched as a group of Council ships broke formation. "They're running," someone said in surprise. "No," Harris replied. "Look at their pattern. That's the High Command vessel." The Council leadership was attempting to escape to a hidden bunker world, but Karen Lewis, now serving as intelligence coordinator, had anticipated this. "Intercept group is in position," she reported. "They won't reach the jump point." On the Council homeworld, panic spread as news of the battle reached the civilian population. Many had never imagined their mighty Council could be challenged. Zar Tol, now commanding the last defensive line, received the worst possible news. The High Command vessel had been captured intact, with all the senior Council leaders aboard. "Continue fighting," he ordered his remaining ships. But his second-in-command stepped forward. "To what end? The war is lost." In the final hours of battle, Zar Tol's ship made a suicide run at the human flagship. Admiral Harris ordered evasive action, but they couldn't avoid collision completely. The impact damaged both vessels severely. As emergency systems activated, Harris found himself face-to-face with Zar Tol in a damaged corridor. The alien commander raised a weapon, but then lowered it slowly. "I don't understand," he said. "How did you do this? You were primitive, divided." Harris looked at the alien warrior. "Because you gave us no choice, and because we remembered who we are." The formal surrender came 3 hours later. Representatives from all allied species gathered to witness the historic moment. Ambassador Julia Brooks, who had replaced Susan Wright after she was killed in an earlier battle, spoke for humanity. "We do not seek to become the new Council," she told the galaxy, her words transmitted on all frequencies. "We propose a new covenant between species, one based on equality, not dominance." 1 month later, delegates from 57 species gathered on a neutral world to begin forming a new galactic alliance. Ancient enemies sat together, working toward a common future. President Bell, visiting the Mars base with Dr. Miller, looked at the ancient murals showing humans among the stars. "Do you think we'll ever know the full story?" she asked. "Who we were before? Why we fell?" Alan shook his head. "Perhaps not. But we know who we are now, and that's what matters." On thousands of worlds across the galaxy, beings of all shapes and sizes looked up at their skies with new feelings. Not fear of council ships appearing, but hope for a future they could shape themselves. The prophecy had come true, but not as the council had feared. Humanity hadn't destroyed the galaxy. They had liberated it. And as the first human colony ships prepared to leave Earth for new worlds, they carried a simple message: remember who you are. The stars are your birthright.